some invocation business.
Yes.
Can't swing by these jacks.
Let's pray. We thank you, God, for the change in seasons, for they remind us of the changes in our own lives and our own communities. May you help our leaders tonight make decisions as they look at changes and ways to keep our community safe. Amen.
Amen.
Would you do some questions?
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to announce that we'll be a public meeting following the meeting tonight. Also, Halloween will be observed October 31st from 5 until 8. Please watch out for the excited kids running up down the streets that night. Next up, we have in your packet a minutes from the regular meeting on October 6th. Motion to approve.
Motion.
Second. Motion second. Any discussion, changes, comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Committee reports, you can last, you can be first.
Street department, we're ready. Street guys have been, the guys in the street department have really been working hard, been real proud of the stuff that they've accomplished so far this year. It's kind of difficult to keep everything organized because of the rush at the end here due to the weather earlier in the summer. But I'm real pleased with how they've done and how things are coming together, and I think every ward in the city should be happy about that because we've got projects in every ward, and I think the city's starting to shape up a little bit due to that.
Good. About positive comments on it. Public safety?
I don't have anything at this time.
Yes? Mr. Whitaker?
Well, we've made some changes in our financial investments and whatever, to try to get some interest-bearing accounts, whatever, but I don't have all the details that I could report, but it means we are consolidating some of the 32 different accounts that we had open previously so that we can lump some of them and have some ongoing interest-bearing accounts that doesn't tie up the money in like a CD would, or it would just be like a money market account. It should be a minor improvement and provide some additional income. Essentially, that's not a lot of detail, but in essence, that's what we've done.
Street department?
Just to continue with what Mr. McVeigh said, sorry, Mr. Palmer said, excuse me. McVeigh's on the line. We're still trying to wrap up a lot of projects. We've got, they finished one lane on Polly. We're going to be switching over to the other lane. They tore it out today. Get it for next week. Well, I guess they'll pour that this week, Tuesday. And they tore out one lane on Tico, northbound Tico today. So they'll be working on that. Next week we'll get, weather permitting, the other side of Tico done and pour the floor at the street department building down there. Then weather permitting and time permitting, they'll be working on a sidewalk or two in town. They've got other obligations that they have to complete for some other towns. So I don't know how much of the sidewalks will get done, but we'll work on those as much as we can. And if we don't get them done this fall, we'll continue, we'll carry those over to the spring. The same way with Industrial Drive, we've got about 130 or 40 feet torn out now. So we're trying to get ready for the contractor for that. And we'll continue that on. on the hiking and biking trail, we have an O-ring go out on a paint striper. And you notice part of it's painted and part of it's not, and that's the reason why. We'll try to continue on with that. We'll be putting up some of the pedestrian signs tomorrow. Visited with Mr. McVeigh today, and with Art and Mama, and with some suggestions that we're gonna probably add some more signs up and down through there, for the safety factor on that, as well as some small delineators, about this high that are flexible, but they're reflective to show people not to drive on the trail. We're gonna try to work out a couple of other issues, up and down through there that I visited with Mr. McVeigh and Mr. Arp about today. We'll be working with the news media, about some of the regulations. A lot of them come even from if you all can remember, I have a hard time, the little book that you got when you were 16 years old about driving. There's some regulations in there about pedestrians and bicycles. Might ask, some of the people in here that might have a little more experience than I do on what they remember out of them, and they could quote them for us for the news media, but we'll be working with those to try to bring that stuff back to the forefront. Hopefully, I haven't talked to the schools, but hopefully I can work with them too and get some of the literature in there, and whether they're on the hiking and biking trail, but elsewhere in town, we can get some of that out there. I think museums in that list to do too. We've got to tear it out for part of the cost savings on that, but again, we've got to work with a contractor. We don't want to tear it out and leave it out for a long period of time until we can get here to do that. I guess I'd like to defer to the committee at this point in time on a couple of bids.
Yes. Need to step back for a second and go, we got a couple of pieces of equipment that we want to order here. And we've got our, the dump bed for the, one of the pickup trucks. It is a budgeted item. We need to look at it, it's $8,500 is what we're looking at there. And the other items are we want to get the snow plows rolling, literally. And we're gonna get our 2 snow plows that we've talked about. Which vehicles are gonna go on there?
They'll go on the 2015 F-250 that we already have, and the 2016 F-250.
And for the 2 of those, it's $12,585 to get that out of the equipment reserve fund is what we're looking on that. And we're trying to get the road grader off the road, to save wear and tear on the road grader in terms of snow conditions. So we're trying to get the city squared away to where we can get it done rapidly and without having to use the heavy equipment, wear and tear on that, and get it done in a more timely manner. And that'll give us, if worse comes to worse, we would have 4 pieces of equipment counting the skid steer that could actually deal with this, but 2 that we would really be working with. 2 pieces of equipment that will be designed for this.
Well, actually 3. The skid steer has we purchased a snow plow with it. So,
That's for intersections, mainly, right?
Is that to be purchased also?
no, we've already got
You've
it.
already got that, okay.
You're talking about the skid steer we had to
The
get.
2 snow plows and the dump bed.
Yes, those are
Okay.
items to be purchased, so I'd like to make a motion that we purchase those items.
Motion second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
On the dump bed, you said it was budgeted.
Yes,
Is that in your regular street department? Okay,
yes.
That's what's in capital improvements.
okay, that budgeted.
Yeah, it was 8,500 budgeted. This is 7,550 for the bid.
I got a question for you, Mr. Carter.
Yes, sir.
Last council meeting, I asked you about the south bypass.
Yes, sir.
Where we is at on that? And I'm just gonna follow up, see what was going on.
Unofficially,
Whatever you want to tell
since
me.
I don't work for MoDOT and I don't have the final answer, the contractor, Chester Bross, had people working as late as 6:30 Saturday night on building the plant. They had 2 gentlemen out there Sunday building it. They told me that they hope to pour some concrete late next week. A gentleman that works for them has called me asking about who owns property along the beginning of the bypass. Mr. Wheeler, I gave him your name even, where they're wanting to put their equipment together, their large paver together. If you've driven around, coming from Walmart around there, they're putting their strings up for their elevation. I don't think they would, I know the word was out that they weren't gonna do anything until next spring. I don't think they'd be putting string up in that and going across some of the driveways even if they weren't going to attempt to do something. And again, that's gonna depend, you know, on weather. So, but that's an unofficial report from observation.
Well, the man did contact me about utilizing some of the space on the fairgrounds for storing some of their equipment. And at the same time, I escorted him down to Bales, where the old Catfish Wharf parking lot is, and the manager at Bales has agreed to allow them to use that asphalt space over there to reassemble it. Some of their equipment comes in 2 or 3 parts on a flatbed, and they have to reassemble it in order to put it to use. So, don't have a final word yet on the fairgrounds, because I sent out an email to the fair board members to, get their consent. But I believe it'll happen. But he expects, like you say, to be pouring concrete. And he told me 2 to 3 weeks is downside. So. And that was last week that I talked to him. Look forward to it.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
No, I did say they're just gonna do the straightaway, the area they got prepared right now, the roundabout and the other will not take place, in this session.
Mr. Carter, I see Joe was not here, but I had a request this week for a stop sign in Ely and Storms. Citizen was complaining about 70, 80 mile an hour traffic running up down Ely. There is a stop sign on Storms, but apparently nothing to slow them down on Ely Street.
I'm not picking on the chief, but again, the stop signs aren't to control speed, they're for the flow of traffic, but I will do a traffic study there.
We pass this gentleman's concerns on to.
That's been a issue in our ward for quite some time, and I know this stop sign is not, I know that from the street department that we can't regulate traffic flow by that, but we have had some speed traps in the past and tried to go that route, and I actually have ridden my bicycle through the ward, and if somebody's out, I've asked them to contact the police with a complaint about that through the non-emergency line, and I don't know that they have done that, but it is a common, well-known problem in that area. So we would definitely encourage. I've seen cars leave the ground actually at that, coming through the intersection there and actually leave the ground, contact with the ground. So it needs something done, but we'll have to figure it out.
You top the street, they got a nice long speedway now, so.
I'll make note of that also and get some visibility over there.
There are a few people that would even loan their yard for a speed trap if you'd like.
I don't know about speed trap, man.
Anything else?
I'm sorry.
You got public safety?
I've got a few things in your packet. I've got these main reports in there, also some of our statistics for the month of September. We answered over 16, almost 1,700 calls of service. Goes along with your packet. Our 911 communication center is getting ready to go. Probably by next week, hopefully I'll connect you with Duncan County. We've been training this week and last week, so that should be a go. Your police department, your police officer been working hard the last couple of weeks. We've had a lot of good cases, made a lot of good arrests, still got some investigations going on, but I'm very proud of them and the time they put in. We've got a lot of help from the state law enforcement, also the sheriff's department. And we will stay ahead on all this. Like I said, Halloween's coming up. This is from 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock. And we'll have a lot of officers out during that night also, but if y'all have any questions or anything for me?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And your old business, the trees on Pool Street.
Well, I have no bids. They're, apparently they're afraid of them, because they're so huge and whatever, that, anyway you take them down, there's gonna create a lot of street damage. You know, some of the limbs on those trees are bigger than a lot of trees in other people's yards, so, you know, it's gonna take some heavy equipment to get in there in order to cut them and lower them, and so the heavy equipment, Caterpillar tracks, whatever else, is gonna tear up those streets, more than likely. And so, they don't want the liability. If we're prepared to waive the liability, then they'll probably take another look at it, and do any street repair ourselves.
What other options do we have?
I mean, I'll go outside of the Kennett. I just asked for bids inside, but Blankenship, Ronnie Williams, whatever, Ronnie said he would have one here yesterday, but he didn't bring it. Whether he had a change of heart, I don't know. And Jim Blankenship said he was afraid of the heavy equipment required to do it. He couldn't,
Have you contacted City Light Gas and Water, and since they have a tree department for this? Is it possible that they could help us out with it?
you gotta go look at the trees. They're massively large. I mean, they're-
But if nobody else will take it, maybe they can help us
I
with
just
it.
took one down like that for Lewis Cottage this week, but it's, you know.
It's out in the open.
Yeah, it's wide open.
I mean, just, it's one little mistake over there, and it's gonna land on a house on the east side of the street or on the west side. They're huge, massive trees. And, so, but in order to get the heavy, I mean, like I said, it's got tree limbs up in it that are that big around, you know, and that takes an awesome piece of equipment just to hold that kind of weight when they cut it loose, bring it down. And so,
Is there any possibility of at least topping some of the trees so if they did come down, they wouldn't reach those houses?
you know, you might could do that, but even still, you still gotta have
Still got the problem.
some heavy equipment up there. Yeah, you gotta go look at it, folks. I mean, these trees are probably well over 100 years old, and the limbs up in the trees are bigger than most of the trees in our yards. So, I mean, just,
How many trees are we talking about?
there's three of them there, two of them are major.
Sounds to me like we need to waive that,
Well,
issue there and go with it, I mean, that no doubt.
well, I mean, waive you what liability? I mean, that's,
The responsibility for replacing the street.
oh, okay, we can do that. If you're talking about waiving their
No,
liability
insurance
for
liability.
negligence
No, I
or
wouldn't
anything
do
like
that. No,
that,
they
no,
just-
we can't do
They
that.
just know that they feel like they gotta have heavy equipment to try to track. And you know, you can't take a heavy piece of equipment down an asphalt street without creating a lot of damage.
We could ask them to be sure that they have the asphalt pads on there.
Well, that's true too.
I mean, I'm not saying that there wouldn't be any damage, but there wouldn't be the cleated marks down through there then, because a lot of that equipment has that on.
We've checked downtown, is there any possibility of getting an out-of-town firm to do this?
Well, I'll do that now. Diane and I talked about it today, that since he didn't bring the bid by, so we'll just go out on the open market, wherever they are, and see what we can get. That's my next best guess, you know.
Those residents over there are pretty concerned. I get 1 or 2 calls a week on it.
One of the problems is if we don't take the trees out, one of them falls, somebody gets hurt or killed, and we're gonna be sitting here, they're gonna be asking questions. You wanted to save a little bit of damage to your streets. That's,
And it's a unique problem over there. Usually you think, okay, I'll cut a wedge out of the tree this side and cut on the other side and it'll fall over here. But that's not a circumstance we got going for us. I mean, because if the tree comes over, it's gonna create a lot of damage just when it hits the ground.
The weight of the tree could take it opposite way you wanna go with it.
Well, then I'm sure they would put some winches and whatever on it to make sure it went the way it needs to go, but it's just, I'll pursue it vigorously tomorrow, see how big it
See if we can come up with a game plan. Next item we have is the clean out of the ditches.
I talked to David Ross, and he said his concern about the liability was people coming out and watching while he does the work. And he said that you would be amazed at how many people do this. So he was wanting to have a couple of people that could be in, like, over Snipe Slough around my house. It would be people in the backyard of those houses to make sure that the owners of the houses don't get too close to where he's cutting. And he said, you know, if we can provide help with that, he would be glad to give us a bid. And we're talking about right at 3 miles of ditches that needs to be done. So hopefully we'll have that information at next meeting.
One thought or one possibility, we're getting real close to the end of the mowing season. And we have the mowing crew, and we might could utilize to marshal this thing. So hopefully we'll have some answers by the next meeting on that. Next up, we've got the addition or the changes to the employee handbook. I think Diane has sent all of you a copy of it. Needs your input. For approval tonight. Is there something in there that you want to see changed? Or I think the lady has some area marked with questions, where you have some options as to which way you want to go with it.
One of the things was, right now, you, employees have a 6-month probationary period. And I had wondered if it needed to be shortened. But after talking to police department and fire department, didn't get to talk to Randy, but he's probably in the same
100%
mindset
100% against it.
that it needs to be 6 months. Because they said it just takes that long to get people trained. So that would not be changed, it would stay the same. And then she had the personal appearance. I think there could be some changes done on that, because mostly where she had laid out what kind of clothes would not be acceptable, that's mostly gonna be in the office area. Everybody else is going to have uniforms, or their department head's gonna tell them what they're gonna be wearing. And so, I think those were the only questions that I had. Did anybody else find anything?
Was there something there about vacation time too? Was there something there about that?
You're right, yeah. The vacation time, right now, you have to be employed a year before you're entitled to any vacation. And at the end of vacation, or at the end of the 1 year, you would get 2 weeks. And so what I had put in there to ask about, and I'm not finding it at the moment, would be if you would be eligible for 1 week of vacation after 6 months. If you waited until you were here a year, you would get 2 weeks vacation.
2 weeks or 10 days?
Well,
I mean, that's about the same. I mean, 70, we're talking about 14 days or 10 days, you can say 2 weeks.
well, we're talking about 10
They
days.
assume 5 working days in each week.
Mr. Mayor? Would it be possible for the department heads to see this?
No, I just sent it to the council. Because
We
you
helped
all
her.
had already seen these.
No, we wrote those. We helped write those and give her comments on them, but we've not seen anything she put together.
I sent them out to, you're the only one that gave anything back on any of the ones that she had done. So she did take your suggestions in consideration. And that's why I didn't send it out to the department heads, because I didn't hear back from them the first time. But that, I mean, if that's your all's wish, that they have time to look at it, that's fine.
I think it'd be wise, to look at the department heads at least, have the opportunity to put some input, it's gonna affect them more than it's gonna affect us.
And just like this last question, whether it's, you allow them 1 week after 6 months, or make them wait the whole year. Now, most jobs I've ever been in, you had, if you had a 2 year, or 1 year stipulation, you didn't get the vacation until you'd been there a year. No, so.
Okay, but answer your question, since we did not do the final version of this, we'll make one available to you, and basically table this until the next meeting. I did have a question, this may be one for Terry, on 202 employment applications. Says application will not be accepted by anyone related to an elected official of the city or members of an appointed board or committees. Kennett's a small town. A lot of people in this town are related to each other. And with that stipulation, you narrow the scope of people available to serve on boards or in elected offices. So we take a look at that one. Is that something we really want to adopt in Kennett?
Well, I mean, that's up to the council. There's constitutional provision against nepotism on appointing or voting to appoint an officer of the city within the 4th degree consanguinity. And of course, that's in the Missouri Constitution, but other than that, that's a council.
How far does that relationship go?
First cousin.
First cousin,
Mm-hmm.
immediate family and first cousin.
Yeah. I think aunts and uncles are probably, aunts and uncles which are included. Go up, yeah.
Anybody else got any questions or comments they want to make? If not, you'll have the copies and we'll bring this back up at the next meeting.
Where would the, part for the vacation be activated? On the introductory period, but I don't see where it talks about vacation specifically. It lumps it in with a lot of things, like sick leave and employee benefits.
I'll have to look and see if I may have left that page,
Okay.
because I didn't see it in here either.
Okay.
Would you like to tell us what your mosquito count is?
Second page, I'm just gonna read this summary real quick, and I think that's enough for time. Mosquito surveillance, utilized 3 New Jersey mosquito traps, 7 gravity traps placed in residential areas throughout. These traps will run 4 times during this period. Located within the spray area, BDCI's New Jersey light traps are 1009 Falcon, 1011 Sarah, 1920 Preston, collecting an average of 76.4 mosquitoes per night, 840 total mosquitoes. A trap located at 1920 Preston collected the majority of the mosquitoes, an average of 118 per night. BDCI's gravity trap set at 17838, CR 442A, 201 Richard, dead end of Falcon, 1100 Pintail, the Country Club, and at the park will run 1 time each, collected an average of 8.3 mosquitoes, which gives us enough at that point to do a test, okay? There were 4 mosquito species collected, with Anopheles being the predominant species. arboviral testing. Culex quinks, or Culex restuans were collected at the tested for West Nile virus. The test procedure was performed by using a ramp testing system, DDCI's local laboratory in Blytheville. There were 3 pools tested during the month of September. Each pool tested negative.
That's good.